So, what happens with the precision of a race car engineer meets the craftsmanship of a master swordsmith? Today on Rise 41 Forged, I sat down with Quinn, the founder of GQ Armory, to explore how he creates some of the lightest, most refined, most incredibly well engineered AR-15 platforms in the world. We're talking engineering, suppressor performance, 300 blackout, 5.56, 6mm arc, tolerances, engineering, and how something that is a product can actually be turned, even in today's world, into a very unique, almost handmade, if not actually handmade, masterpiece. I hope you enjoy this episode. All right, everybody, welcome. Tonight on Rise 41 on the Forge podcast, I have a very special guest. I'm privileged to say I have Quinn, the man, the myth, the legend behind GQ Armory. And in order to set this up for those of you who may be unfamiliar with Quinn's work and GQ Armory, let me put it this way. 800 years ago, there was a Japanese sword maker named Masamune, and he forged some blades that were so exceptional that they became legends. And samurai, some of them believed they weren't simply weapons, that they were works of art, capable of preserving life as much as taking it. I mean, just the sheer craftsmanship of that. Today, we don't carry katanas. We carry carbines and rifles. It's a different world. But the question remains, does craftsmanship still matter? And today, we're sitting with a man that has made me believe that in today's modern world, there is absolutely still a space to look at these things of weapons or firearms as art, as something beyond just a tool or something utilitarian. So with that, Quinn, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I like that reference there. I agree with you. I think that firearms have become the modern day battle sword.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's does what it's supposed to do. It equalizes the field and it allows us to defend ourselves and or provide for our families if you're hunting or even just target shooting, an experience that's recreational. But what caught my attention was as I got back into this hobby, I found you and the attention to detail, the sheer craftsmanship of your product. And I hate to say product because it's almost like each piece is a unique piece, it feels. Anyway, let's start at the beginning. How did you get into wanting to develop your own platform to such a degree? Like, how did this all start?
Well, it's a little bit of a loaded story, so I'll try to synopsis it. Looking back at my childhood, it makes sense that I fell into this, but I'll drop some dates here. So, turning point in my life was 2016. I pulled off a remarkable diamond in the rough like property that was empty for 8 years. It was all custom post and beam. Everybody wanted it, but like there were so many complications and stuff that as soon as people start showing interest, the town would slap you with a book that had all these, just issues with it that had to be addressed. And I couldn't step away from this property. I'm an avid car guy. I've always been into cars, motorcycles. I've been building racing grassroots motorsports a good portion of my life. I'm mostly retired now from competition, but I was very one-track minded. So like I side hustled all the time. My day job is in IT. I grew up doing HVAC work. My family owns an HVAC company, so I was a blue collar worker, but I hated it. My stepfather started the company. Tremendous respect for him, but when we were younger, we had their conventional stepson stepfather relationship. Didn't like each other very much.
Yeah, tell me about it. We'll talk about that later.
Definitely didn't get any special treatment when I was there, and it wound up on a lot of shit jobs a lot. But I cut so much insulation and duct liner that it was enough for me to say, okay, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I'm going to go and do my own thing. So didn't know what I wanted to do. Went to college. I have a degree in network technology. So my background is in network security, and I work for some major publicly traded corporations. I'm not going to name them. I don't think that's relevant, but But it was, all these were great learning experiences, right? So I learned hard work ethic doing HVAC work, got to really see behind the scenes of companies as they scale, become publicly traded, have a board of directors making the decisions. Like I got to see all that behind the scenes. And prior to going into big enterprises, I worked in consulting. So I saw a lot of privately owned companies and their work cultures and just the stuff that they did that would, didn't resonate and what did resonate with the people. And everybody talks, right? Especially to the
Right.
guest IT guy, right? Like it just,
Yeah. And I'm an IT guy too, by the way, for the record. That's my day job. My day job is program development and management. I came in from the front end though, from the design UI UX experience side.
yeah.
But still, I absolutely sympathize with what you say.
Yeah. So I know I just went off on a little bit of a tangent there on all that, but I'm just building a little background here. So hold off this property. I think I was 31 or 32. I think I was 32 by the time I closed on it. But I had never fired a gun at that point in my life. Okay. And so there's a significance to this. I'm building it up here.
Yeah.
But because the property was more set back, it was more private, I said I should probably get a handgun for home defense. And
Okay.
I was never against firearms. I was a little bit nervous around them only because I just didn't know enough, right? And I didn't want to be the guy that has an ND or like accidentally gets shot by somebody who's not handling it appropriately. But my younger brother, he had gotten into it a couple of years prior, so I asked him. I said, why don't you take me shooting? And so I went shooting for the first time. Like, and I'd shot like BB guns and paintball guns and stuff like when I was younger, but never a real gun. So I fired my first real gun at 32 years old. So I'm late into the scene, but I fell in love with the mechanics of it. And this stems from, I've always had an engineering mind, building cars, right? Like I got deep into engine building, spent a lot of time building, tuning, doing the whole nine, right? So looking at the fundamentals, the mechanics of how firearms operating systems work, along with like gas dynamics, right? Which like just clicked with me because I was used to doing like turbocharged engines, stuff with forced induction, but you're changing the air ratio, right? The air fuel ratio. So like, and it's not apples to apples, but there's a lot of commonalities there. I think more than what people would think. So,
Well, similarly to you, I have a strong background modifying vehicles and cars for performance drag racing and so on. So I am there with you, brother. Keep going.
It goes hand in hand. A lot of car enthusiasts are firearms enthusiasts at the same. So, we're out of Connecticut, okay, and for those of you who don't know, Connecticut is a terrible, terrible Second Amendment infringing state. Okay, I didn't know how bad it was because I never, again, not being into firearms. But when I started to get into it, I was like, that's when I quickly started to realize, like, oh, I want an AR. Oh, I can't have one. Oh, I want this 9mm subgun. Oh, you can't have that either, right? And this all stems from what happened with Sandy Hook and all the legislation that was passed after the fact. So, but it happened really fast. So I'm really one track mind, right? Like that, and I say that because like I side hustled all the time when I was younger, and it was just money in one pocket for my car projects, and then out the other into them. Like that's it. And the house, the whole big property deal, it took me 10 months start to finish to do it, but it was the first thing that came along in my life that absolutely disrupted that car project passion. Like I couldn't do anything. I actually had to sell some cars. I sold my race car, all my, I sold a lot of stuff to be able to pull off the property, right? I had to make sacrifices for it. And then on top of that, like just getting everything situated because they required a tremendous amount of work to remediate everything that needed to be fixed and, work the deals with the town. But I learned so much in that process. I learned how to work with people, because it was a terribly complicated deal. I had to, withhold information from certain parties, not doing anything nefarious, but it was like, there were so many things that could have put a stop in it in its track. And I had to learn how to pivot. So that was like my first lesson in business, but like not understanding it. So I pulled the property off and I was getting ready for the first winter. A couple of the buildings I heat with an outdoor boiler and I needed wood. I had no wood. I had to put the boiler in. I'm going to do that. I was chopping wood for 2 weeks straight to get ready for the first winter. And it was nothing but me and my thoughts, but that was the cloud breaking clarity moment that hit me. And it was like, why was I the guy to pull this property off when everybody wanted this and was empty for 9 years? I was the one
Right.
that
How
belonged.
come it was you that were able to do that?
And that's the
Okay.
thing. I'm not some brilliant genius, right? It really just stemmed down to I just kept showing up. And every time I hit a roadblock, I found a way to pivot around it. So everything clicked. And that was the same time as like I had just gotten my Connecticut pistol permit because they required permits here.
Mhm.
And fell in love with that. So I was like, I should start a business. And I've seen enough behind the scenes in corporate, right? Like so I'm going to tie a lot of these things in. I tend to jump around on them. I apologize for that. It's just
It's okay. By the way, the our side, we specialize and we do a lot of work with people with ADHD, such as myself. So you're in friendly territory, my friend.
I've never been diagnosed. I'm sure that I have it. And just give me one.
No doubt. No
I'm going to
doubt.
turn this AC unit on because get hot in my office.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt whatsoever.
I'm, I'm sure I have some form of ADHD.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor or anything, but I am. What is it? I'm not just the founder. I'm a client. Kind of same
Right.
thing.
So, oh God, now I lost my train of thought. Perfect.
It's okay. You were saying how come your perseverance was what allowed you to finalize the property and get this done,
Right. So
where others failed.
I said I'm going to apply this effort, this level of effort, instead of just side hustling and buying cars, I'm going to start something, and that was also driven for the fact that being in corporate, two major companies that everybody would know if I said their name. But what I had witnessed behind the scenes there is that when a company I love capitalism, right? Because I'm an entrepreneur.
Sure.
So I believe, like, I love it, but there is a dark side to it and a downside, and it's that when companies scale aggressively and get to a certain point, especially when they become publicly traded. Like, to me, my biggest takeaway in my 15 years in major corporations was that the companies become soulless, and so the driving factor for me to do something as like a backup plan to break away from that eventually was that anytime they forecast greedy all the time. Like one of the companies I work for, like we had a record year every year over the prior. And when they would forecast their profits, like if the trend was going like this for the year, like oftentimes like 6, 7 months in, it would start to taper a little bit, but they just always had thought that pattern would continue. And to preserve the stocks and all the other stuff that goes on behind the scenes, they would cut budgets. They would just do mass layoffs. And I watched people who, like, some of the hardest working people I've ever seen. Now, listen, like as a business owner, I would never expect anybody to put the level of effort into a company that I do because it's not their company, right? So like I've always been mindful of that. But I've watched people who, like, they're the first ones there. They're the last ones to leave. They're working nights from home. Like, I mean, just dedicate 40 plus years of their lives. And then when they need to cut, or then when they need to save money, they're just like,
Right.
all right, thanks, see ya. And to me, that was like the most disgusting thing ever. So that was a real driving factor that, like, I don't want to be at the mercy of that and like have to go start all over, So big driving factor for me there. And it just kind of clicked at the same time. So I had my cloud breaking moment. I just started getting into firearms. Connecticut sucks. And I came out having fun. So like,
So these are a lot of factors kind of lining up.
it was like, okay, I'm going to go get an FFL and I'll be able to have cool things. I can start a side hustle. I'll retail guns and earn some income. And then and we'll see where it goes. No plans to manufacture, no plans to do anything in that space. It was actually the ATF field officer who interviewed me for my thing. She said, "Are you sure you don't want to do the manufacturer's license? Because it's much easier just to do this now if you ever decide to manufacture anything versus doing it down the road," which is like one of the, not that there's a lot of great interactions with the ATF, but that was a moment that I really appreciated with her, and I liked it, right? And thankfully, it was 2 years after the license was issued when I started manufacturing. And how I got into the manufacturing space was, things are fun, right? I was able to have cool stuff. Now I was able to have all the stuff that you couldn't have. All my friends are jealous.
Right. Now you have an avenue that you can use.
And like, and this is, it was my first like real go at a business. So like, I'm just retailing, right? So like, I'm throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, right? Figuring stuff out. But through that, I started a lot of, strategic partnerships and meeting folks in the industry. And started that whole networking thing, and that was great. What prompted me to actually start doing my own designs was that. So I got to keep the technical side off of here. Going back to how strict Connecticut is, right? One guy, he was a kind of a sketchy FFL, but he found not a, I wouldn't call it a loophole. It was just law is very intentional. So it's like how it's written, the verbiage has to include stuff. And if it doesn't include it, then that it kind of leaves it in a gray area. So when Connecticut wrote their assault weapons laws, they did them around rifles, pistols, and shotguns. And then they wrote all these contributing features that would ultimately determine if they called it an assault weapon or not. And I hate that name, by the way, but that's what Connecticut called it. So that's what I'm saying it.
It's like the rifles have a personality. This one's really hostile, so it's an assault one.
It's unbelievable.
What does it mean? Anyway.
So what they didn't specifically call out was other firearms, any other weapons or AOWs. And was there one more? No, those are the two criteria there. So if you manufactured an AR or a carbine, a PCC as an AOW or another weapon, and just so it makes some sense, right? Like a rifle is a firearm that's meant to inherently be fired from the shoulder. That's it. Pistol is a single-handed weapon meant to be fired with one hand. An other is a two-handed weapon. So for instance, if you have an AR pistol and you put a vertical foregrip on it, now it becomes a two-handed weapon, which is, it's not barrel length, like minimum barrel length, like we do rifle. It's just overall length. So if the overall footprint is 26 inches long, it's an other firearm. It's non-NFA, so not a tax stamp item. If it's under 26 inches overall length, then it's an AOW. It's an NFA item. But because Connecticut in that legislation, they never outlined those things, they were legal, and you were able to have all the features that they were, said you couldn't have.
I see.
Almost every gun store in Connecticut was either making or reselling these other firearm ARs, right? And that was cool. Like that was great to bring that back to Connecticut, because I think the whole infringing thing is bullshit. But what I saw happening, and this is what prompted me to want to get involved in making my own designs and manufacturing, is that a lot of these companies were just like piecing together Chinese mil-spec replica, parts bin specialties and putting a huge markup on them strictly because you wouldn't be able to own it lawfully otherwise in Connecticut. And that felt really wrong to me. Like you're just like, we should be banding together here, fighting the 2A fight in this state.
Yeah.
You're just taking advantage of those because they otherwise they wouldn't be able to have it. So with that said, I made the decision. I said, okay, I'm gonna manufacture something that's quality, because I'm like I've always been a guy like in my cars and motorcycles are stapleness. Like I will spend the money on the more expensive part if it delivers on everything that I want it to do, right? Like I won't skip on quality. I'm a big on that buy once, cry once sort of deal, And listen, I live my life as a consumer. I've made plenty of purchase mistakes, and I'm not too proud to admit it, right? A lot of people, like, they don't want to admit that they made a bad purchase, but like it happens, right? Like there's good product, bad products. So we started designing what essentially is now the Paladin series, and the rest is history. Like I kept evolving the platform because I'm so neurotic about quality and fit and finish. Weight is a huge thing, and that just stems from my background in racing. What I tell folks is that horsepower will make you faster in a straight line, but lightweight will make you faster everywhere. And what I mean by that is a lighter weight car is going to corner faster, it's going to brake faster, and it's going to accelerate faster, where if you strictly just add horsepower, it's only faster in acceleration, not in those other areas.
Right.
So, and diving deeper into firearms platforms, especially like AKs and stuff, because I couldn't have AKs previously, but when I had my licenses, I bought a couple of AKs. I'm like, why are these things so freaking heavy? Especially when you start adding accessories, full magazines, silencers, the whole nine, like the system weight goes up quite a bit. And that's the history of the Paladin. I mean, I'll grab one if you want to see if I.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, later on in editing, I can add pictures and stuff, which hopefully we can show the audience. But if you have one now, by all means, please.
Like, so we're in my office here. Like, I got a wall.
I'm assuming that YouTube is fine with this because I've seen some videos. So.
Yeah, as long as we're not doing full auto fire or magazine changes, I think.
Yeah, as long as we don't do anything like insane like that, I think we're fine. But I want I do want to show the actual, and I hate to use the word product because yes, it is a product,
It is a product.
but it's not a typical product. People have to understand like the difference between this is like basically now you have two series, right? You have the Fallout and the Paladin.
Correct.
And to me, when somebody says like, and the Fallout being the not quite as expensive as the Paladin, to me that's like saying which Bugatti do you like, the V10 or the V12? You know, it's like it's a Bugatti regardless. So
Even though they're probably closer than what people would realize, but the Fallout, it was literally just an attempt, which like I'm terrible at making concessions. I don't want to compromise on anything. It was just
sure,
how can we manufacture a platform that gives you the same critical components at the core as the Paladin series,
hmm
but offer it at a lower price point. And I can give a quick, like, if you want it like a high level, the
sure,
fall, like, so this is a Paladin. This is a 300
yeah.
black.
And by the way, go ahead and describe the Paladin so that our audience understands what we're talking about.
That's why
Because there are certain things, if you're a firearms guy, that will grab your attention immediately about this platform. So go ahead.
so I'm going to start with the Paladin because this is really where what got us into the industry. The name comes from the Paladin warriors, the ancient warriors of God adorned with gold accents. I thought it was fitting. The OG color scheme was with the gold accents here.
hmm
You offer a black edition, so for folks who want a traditional all black rifle, it's still very elegant, but it does lose some of the pop that you get from the gold. I think
Yeah.
it's a nice subtle balance of gold, but everybody's got their own preference and it's subjective, and that's totally okay. But
hmm
this base gun starts at 4 pounds on the dot. So, I mean, it's super, super light. You can see like it's not, and I have an optic on here too. Like there's no, that
Yeah.
was
There's no
big goal was
no
that
sway.
I wanted to have one of the lightest rifles on the market without concessions. So you see like, other than a little bit of skeletonizing on the underside of the trigger guard here, there's no skeletonization anywhere else in the receiver. So it took a while to engineer this in a way where we can keep the weight down. This is a full ambi receiver set. So full ambi controls. The big thing is the bolt catch here on the right side. You can get back and then also release it. Go
Super
fast
nice.
bits wherever we can do. We mill this magazine button. It's billet 7075 aluminum. Same footprint as a SIG MCX series because I don't like locking people in the proprietary stuff. So any MCX factory or aftermarket offering could be replaced in here. I mean, obviously we make these, so if like it would fall under our warranty if anybody ever needed another one.
hmm
Ambi magazine release, so you can manipulate it here, and then all of our fire controls are enhanced to oversized. The Paladin gets titanium throughout it to replace some of the small parts that are steel. So like these takedown pins, and I'll kind of get these close up here.
Yeah, we can see them.
Yeah,
Definitely. Those are
and
titanium.
it's grade 5 tie, and all the scalloping in there is like a subtle cue for my love of automotive, but most people wouldn't know. They just think it's a more bespoke looking bolt or a take pin. But like it's homage to like the titanium motorcycle fasteners that are all scalloped and to keep the weight down on the top. Giant oversized flared magwell. I think we have one of the largest in the industry.
Yeah, makes that easy for transitions and reload. Man, I mean, and you also offer it in a variety of calibers too, which is great because all of a sudden you have something that's light and tiny that can still reach out and touch somebody at 1,000 yards,
Yeah. So
which is crazy.
yeah, well, AR-15 we do 223-556, 300 blackout, 6 millimeter arc, and 338 arc, and there's a reason behind the caliber choices. Like
Mhm.
we start from the beginning. Like every firearms enthusiast should own a 556 AR, right? That's the common caliber. That's if stuff goes nuts in the world, that's what everybody's going to have. 300 blackout's still my favorite AR cartridge just because it's so versatile with such a small, lightweight footprint. It's super quiet and fun, suppressed, and we make the
Mhm.
silencers to go along with this. And then if you need to reach out or you need more kinetic energy, you can just switch to a supersonic load. So I love the versatility of blackout. What I really love about it is that it's a very forgiving, low pressure cartridge, even in the supersonic format. So we've spent so much time working out the gas dynamics. The Stoner design is brilliant for its time, right? Like I'm still blown away that in the 60s that they engineered that. Like that's amazing to me. But it's kind of antiquated now.
Mhm.
The firearms industry hasn't had major strides in that area. That's something that we're working on. But we spent a great deal of time fixing the shortcomings in the stoner design, especially when it comes to suppressing the weapon, because the silencers are a wonderful thing.
Mhm.
Everybody should own a silencer with their rifle. It's just like your car, right? We
You
don't
have a muffler.
driving around everywhere without a muffler on their car because that gets annoying after a while. Why would you want, why would that be any different for people who want to shoot on their property and, whatever the case?
Or even if you have frequent range sessions for
Sure.
fun, that constant detonation. I mean, if you can minimize that over time,
Sure.
it's hearing protection, you know?
I mean, everything's more pleasant with a silencer, but you have to be able to tune the system. So that was one of the biggest things that I learned in the process of this over the years, and lots of testing, lots of R&D, is that the silencer really screws up the gas dynamics. I think more than what people understand, because a lot of our support calls typically come down to just a simple misunderstanding of where to adjust gas to tune the rifle appropriately. And I'll just say this as like a PSA, right? Because a lot of people ask, well, can I run supers and subs on one gas setting? And the short answer is on like something like a 300 blackout that's low pressure. The answer is yes. But when you start getting in the higher pressure or heavier subsonic calibers like 338 arc or 86 blackout, the answer is probably not. That window becomes much more narrower. But my argument for why you don't want that mindset is that it's always in your best, it's in your best interest as the shooter to get the best experience out of the platform to tune the load that you're shooting to the silencer. Because, I go on social media and I see all the, the influencer videos and they're ripping rounds downrange and all the other stuff, but I'm looking at their ejection pattern. I'm like, that gun's over gas. So they're getting more recoil. They're getting more gas back to their face, like all the things that you don't want, right? Like if you're really trying to streamline and optimize the shooting experience. So just like my cars, right? I'm very
Mhm.
particular how my car behaves. And like, I'm not talking, just acceleration or braking. Like I'm saying like, at the limit of grip, I want that car to behave in a certain way for my driving style that I can just pick whatever angle of drift I want in mid corner. And that's a hard thing to like really find that balance of. So I've already been doing this, but like as a passion project, but when I cut into the firearms, it's the same thing. I want these to perform like the absolute best out of the box that you can do. But it starts like every little component matters. So like I'll just use an example. Like we don't use any common gas port sizes on our barrels because most of them are too big, with the exception of 300 blackout. The common gas port size for 300 blackout is actually too small, but that's because it's a low pressure cartridge. So like everything that we do in the system is to optimize the experience for the shooter and give you the best suppressed performance. So that's the other thing I didn't really piggyback off of it. I'm jumping around. When you tune the gun that's suppressed, your silencer is going to effectively become more efficient, offering better sound performance, less pop out of the ejection port, which ultimately comes right into your ear. So that's why it is always in your interest to be mindful of, you want to tune the system. And to accommodate that, we came up with our gas block design. It's tiny. It's the
Mhm.
same 416R stainless steel that our barrels are. So same thermal expansion rate with heat, keeps everything sealed up better. But it's
Nice.
a single screw. You can get it right through the side of the handguard, one tool, no secondary set screws or jam nuts or anything like that. It's right to close it, left to open it. We developed a little spring-loaded detent system to hold the screw in place. So you can really, there's clicks every 180 degrees, but ultimately it's infinitely adjustable because the screw won't walk itself in either direction as long as that spring and detent is putting pressure on it. So we did
Wow.
that.
So you thought it through the whole way
Yeah, and
completely.
and it's just like when I talked to you, right? Like
Mhm.
I spent a lot of time we try to teach and educate because ultimately that's gonna give you the best experience. And that's what we want, right? We want you to love the platform. We want you to do everything and then some that you wanted it to do, but we want to make sure that you're getting the best of it. Right. And I'm sure you've shot a bolt gun suppressed. Like bolt guns are wonderfully
Yeah.
quiet because the chamber
Mhm.
stays closed.
Yeah. It's
Same
nice
thing
and
with
close.
same
And
thing with lever actions. On a gas gun, we're immediately killing 40% of the efficiency in the silencer. And this is why flow through silencers have become so popular for high pressure stuff like your 5.56, because people don't have adjustable gas systems. So it's the difference of being able to suppress the weapon and having it still cycle versus putting a conventional, baffled silencer on there and having it malfunction because now the cyclic rate's too high. So I won't go into any more technical detail there, but just as a
Well, that's a great example of the attention to detail in the design that you put in there, because so folks have to understand, like any device, machine, or anything like that, quality matters, and if you're going to enter it at a certain price point, you have to understand that there's a give and take. And when you go into a platform like the Paladin or the Fallout, you're not basically you're saying, I don't want compromises. I want the best experience.
yeah, and that's
End of story. Yeah.
how we sell it. It's
Yeah.
there's not a single. You have the absolute best premium materials, componentry, the surface finishes. There's nothing in here that needs to be upgraded. It's you have the best out of the box. Just put your optic on that you want to run it, and off you go.
Yeah.
And then
Like the triggers are great, and I mean everything's been thought all the way through, which is phenomenal, by the way.
and
You
like
know,
and anybody can build an AR, right? The AR to build an AR is not that complicated, but where you run into issues is when you're using X brands trigger with Y brands lower and Z brands barrel, right? The problem is that there's a thing that's called tolerance stacking.
Mhm.
It's real. And like you may get lucky and there's nothing wrong. And probably most of the time that's more the case, but you may get unlucky and you have that right or wrong combination of tolerance stacking, which creates an issue in the gun that you can't quite fully work out. Right. It may cycle, but like every now and then you'll get a hiccup. That's a real common thing. And I just look at if this is ultimately to be like a defensive bedside gun, whatever, truck gun, something that you're going to put your wife's hands in, you want to mitigate that as much as possible. So like I'm proud to say at this point now, like we manufacture majority of the components in the gun in house. With the exception of what you're seeing here, like we don't make the safety selector, and that's about in the stock, right? Because this injection molding is a very costly other thing. But everything else on here, like all the small parts, the trigger group, the mag catch, the grip, the upper lower
Mhm.
barrel, bulk carrier group, like we make them. So we can control the level of tolerance stacking and how better and to potentially mitigate that. And with that said, right, like in metal manufacturing, and this is in any industry, there's prone to be there could be a problem, right? Because tolerance stacking still happens even if you're making the stuff in house, right? A machine can slip, humidity changes can cause a dimensional change. Like there's a surface coating can cause a dimensional change. So you can't avoid that. But the only way that you can best mitigate that is your warranty. And we put customer service and relationships and warranty at the forefront of the business model. So it's unconditional lifetime warranty. I've never denied a warranty claim on anything at this point. If it's even there was times we had, like, I'll use an example. We had a guy, he had one of our SD miles, which has a forged carbon fiber handguard and it covers part of the silencer. He was shooting the gun without the silencer installed, so getting blast inside the handguard, and he damaged the carbon. I still replaced it under warranty. I just said, hey, don't do this again because I'm not going to do this for you next.
Yeah.
But because, but sometimes stuff can happen and it may not show its head until, 15,000 rounds into the gun, but we cover, we do not deny warranty claims. So it's the only way, it's the only true way that you can truly mitigate that, because machines are machines and that's just the nature of CNCing. You're bound to have something happen eventually.
Well, I really appreciate your philosophy, because one of the other things, and you mentioned it, and I want to kind of like emphasize it, is that quality ensures trust, and building trust where you can, like you said, if I have this weapon as my main defense weapon and possibly defending my family or my own life, I can't have any hesitation whether it's going to run or not. It
Right.
has to work. It has
Right.
to work. So this attention to detail, it's a pursuit of perfection, which I really respect. And it's also a building trust with your customers, because ultimately, people are going to like purchase this product and realize this is why I purchased it. Because you could buy probably two, maybe three cheap ARs for the price of one of these, but they won't compare. It's not
Right.
going to be close.
And remember, like I was a consumer for most of my life, and I've had to send other make guns that I owned prior to doing this back for warranty work, and some of the warranty processes were a real pain in the ass. Some of they make you feel like you did something wrong because they start drilling you with questions, and they're looking for a reason to deny the warranty claim, right? So which I understand, right? Because sometimes, like more than often, like on the consumer side, it's often just a consumer error, right? We 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 talk communication and we work through the variables and we narrow it down. And if it's something that we can't easily resolve with, is it just a gas adjustment? Is it you're using some weird cheap brand of ammo? Whatever the case is, if we can't sort it out by phone, then we are made a gun. That's our standard procedure, and we send a paid shipping label to send it back. There's no shipping cost to the customer, right? So it's the best that it's the at this point in my life is the best that I can come up with to the way that you handle.
Yeah. No, it just feels like a very personal and very tailored experience. It doesn't feel like you just, like I said, I hate using the word product, even though it is a product,
Sure,
but
our
it's
product
an
doesn't bother.
exceptional product, and the attention to detail, the customer service, the building of the trust that we were talking about, all of these things add up over time. So
Yeah.
it ends up being a decision of like, you know, if you can afford it, it's hard to argue against one high quality platform versus two or three that you might not be able to run. And then you'll be frustrated three different times you go to a range instead of going one time with your platform doing exactly what you want it to do, where you don't worry about anything except your own performance. Because that's what I want when I go to the range. I want to be I want to be the limiting factor of the platform, not the platform. So, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a whole ecosystem, and I'm very big on white glove service.
Mhm.
So when we tell that to our customers, like, make us your first phone call. Don't take it to your local gunsmith. Like, call us first because we prefer to work on the guns. We don't want other people touching them because it just creates more variables, and it's ultimately it's more of a headache on our end, right? Like if some gunsmith did something and he mucked something up, he doesn't say anything, right? Because the customer's now he just says, "Oh, you got to go back to GQ," right? And the customer doesn't know what was done because he wasn't watching what was happening. So, I would prefer, like, I just prefer it that way, right? We control more of the process, so keep it white glove. And a lot of our packages are ecosystems, right? So, like, we offer the force reset selector package now. We tune the gun to whatever silencer you're going to run on it, whether it's ours or competitors can. We have a slew of silencers in house for that we have for mostly tuning. I mean, some R&D purposes, but mostly just having different levels of back pressure, so we can give a good baseline tune on the force reset package for whoever the customer is that's going to be getting it, because we
Mhm.
don't want them wasting time or wasting ammunition trying to figure it out themselves. Like, we developed the package with the appropriate spring and recoil system in there to make that as turnkey as possible. And that's like a
So the future, let's talk about the future because so my understanding is that you're redoing the Fallout in a new version. Is that right? Is it a new, which is where we met each other when I was looking into that, and you were like, if you wait a few weeks,
so
so
in 2024, we put a lot of investment into our manufacturing process and the machines that we cut our receivers on. And when we did so, we had to make all new fixturing and tooling, which is a very costly endeavor. But
I'm sure.
it was a good opportunity to update some of the designs and with what we've learned, as because everything's a constant evolving process. But we launched all the Gen 3 designs of the Paladin in 2025. We can do those production runs. We're almost done with the Fallout. The Fallout had more delays than anything, which is it's. I wish there was a simpler way to do it. It's the biggest thorn in my side because I hate delays, but unfortunately, when you run through a new program, you have to do everything line by line. And when there's an issue, you have to go rewrite the code and then go back and do it all over again, especially if you find out a hiccup like later on in the process at a later operation. It's like it could really it's a costly thing to not hit it out of the park right from the get-go. But I mean, we
Yeah, but it's like in IT. If you the further down the road you find the defect, the more costly it is always
yeah,
because you're already almost to the end, and now we got to do all that testing all over again. And yeah,
programming changes are a big pain in the ass.
hmm
Then there's material loss, there's non-recurring engineering fees that you lose. Like, it's a pain, but it has to meet our criteria, right? It has to meet our level of quality. And, like, I can understand and respect why a business would cave the pressure and they would rush their product out. But, like, I think why I'm so against it is because the companies that I worked for, they're guilty of doing that. And so, when they're so big, they'll continue to produce that crappy product, factoring in that the amount of returns and warranties on them. Because most people just, when you're talking like few $100s in the product lines, most people aren't going to do anything about it, right? So it's actually less costly for them just to continuing to produce that shit product instead of actually going back and the
And
engineering
fixing it.
what needs to be addressed. So
Yeah.
I just don't ever, I can't, I mean, maybe it's because it's my name in the brand. And like, I feel like it's a reflection of me and who I am as a person. So like, I really, obviously like we're human, right? And mistakes happen, but that's the warranty there. But I just hold everything to such a high standard. I want it to be absolutely like peak. And that's where like I really like what the focus holds for the brand. You'll never see us producing low end cheaper products for like to meet a price point. We just don't do that. We build the product appropriately as best as we possibly can, and then we just price it accordingly. Going to your question on the Fallout is all the critical components of as the Paladin. The biggest difference is it's not full ambi controls, right? Because that's a differentiating factor. We don't have to machine as much. The bolt catch system that we make for the Paladins, 3 pieces, it's costly to make.
I like that too. I
It's
agree.
quality of feel, and like
Yeah.
people probably don't care, but I care. So like that's why that's why we do that. But so the Fallout, it just has no spec manual arms with an ambi safety selector, and the receivers don't get machined as much. So they're like an ounce and a half, 2 ounces heavier for the set at most. It's really negligible. All of our AR-15 models, regardless of caliber, are under 5 pounds, starting at 4
Nice.
pounds for the lightest ones. So again, as I was saying, it was my attempt to make a more cost efficient product without making any concessions, and like it's just little nuances like that. Oh, like an example, the Paladin is the titanium takedown pins. We do billet 70-75 ones, which are actually lighter, but they don't. The aluminum is.
Yeah. All right. So let's do a quick lightning round. Before the lightning round, let me ask you this. Is there ever going to be a bolt gun from GQ Armory at some point? Like a tactical bolt platform? Like a GQ cross rifle? Something like that?
So my lead engineer wants to do a bolt gun so bad because we see the offerings that are out there, and like we can just completely rewrite the book for the bolt gun. My hang up on it is it goes back to that whole operating system.
Right.
It's essentially from scratch, right? So it's costly, it's time consuming. It's different from working off of an existing technology, right? You're really reinventing the wheel. But that is something I really want to focus on first and foremost, because I just think the like bolt guns are a cool thing, and but I would say ARs are just, let's just say, gas driven rifles are more popular than bolt applications.
Yeah, for sure.
But I could tell you this: when the time gets closer and we can actually start showing what we've been developing. Like, you'll be happy that we didn't do a bolt gun first.
Okay. Sounds good to me. All right. So now to wrap this all up, and thank you so much for your time, Quentin, because this has been mind blowing, and it's so cool to understand like what the mind behind the design is thinking and why those decisions were made. So let's do a quick lightning round just for fun. Let's
Sure.
see. Let's see. So let's start. What's your favorite caliber? If you had to pick one. I think I know, but
I mean, I would say 300 blackout, but I have to just put the asterisk there. I love 338 arc, and we are going so hard with 338 arc. We're launching an ammo line as we speak right now, and the first caliber that we're producing is 338 arc.
okay.
It outperforms 300 in every metric. Think of it as 8.6 blackout, but you get the smaller, lightweight footprint of the AR-15. And I love 8.6, but at the end of the day, 338 arc wins because of the footprint. I'm a huge AR-15 fan. I love the size. I love the weight. And man, you can just get after so many things with the. I mean, I would say with a 300 blackout, but if you're hunting, you run out of steam, especially on the subsonics. And 338 arc just like picks that.
That's fair. I did not know the answer then. Okay. Let's see. LPVO or Prism? What do you like better?
Prism motors. I mean,
Okay.
I say that because I struggle with eye relief. So like,
Okay.
I like to shoot fast. So yeah, I just struggle to clear eye relief in most like fast shooting drills. So I'm a Prism guy first, and then like magnification second if I need it. I love those little EOTech short rifle scope series. They're lightweight. You got good magnification. I'm mostly using the dot, but when I need the magnification, I have it there. So I'm been a big fan of that series.
Okay, that's fair. And what would you say is the most satisfying part of building when you're building a rifle or whatever? Is there anything particular that's like a moment where you're like, this is why I did it?
I love the envisioning stage. So you have the dream, right? And watching that come to life. Now it's always a bunch of NF and like hardships in the develop, like when you're actually producing it and prototyping. But when the finished product comes to life and it's usable and it's tangible and you can touch and you can feel, you know, I love that. And it's the same thing like we were talking about, like machining. I put a lot of investment into the machining. Like our tolerances now are so tight. There's no wiggle in our receivers. And I think that's some people don't care. Wiggle in an AR is normal, but like I don't want wiggle in our guns. Like they need to be rock solid tight. And it took some time to do that. It's challenging to repeat that. And that's why you see most companies don't do that, because it's costly. It means that you scrap more products, you know. So but we do it.
Last question before we close it out. 20 years from now, what do you want people to think when they hear GQ Armory? What is the first thought that you want people to have in their heads?
I want to replace, instead of the Stoner design, I want it to be the GQ design.
Damn, ambitious. Love that though.
Oh,
Yeah. No, but you think big to do big. So
it's ground changing. So I hate that earth shattering way. It's
yeah, no, revolutionary. You want something that's the next step in the evolution, something truly revolutionary that changes the game. Yeah, I get it. All right. Well, I said it before. I think every generation has its craftsman, but man, I know centuries ago it was swords. Today we're building rifles, but the mindset hasn't changed clearly. And this interview proves it, and the artwork that are these rifles definitely prove it. So Quinn, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us and to the audience. And guys, comment, like, subscribe. I'm telling you, if you're thinking about an AR-15 platform rifle, please, please, please do yourself a favor. Buy it once, cry once, but I am sure you won't cry too much if you get your hands on one of these firearms. They're incredible. So with that, Quinn, thank you so much.
Thank you.